Good evening. My name is Eric Welch. I'm a high school teacher at Jeb Stuart High School, I should say Jeb Stuart High School in Falls Church, Virginia. You probably all don't know Jeb Stuart High School, where we use street law with our 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. I'm grateful for being given the honor tonight to introduce what I would call America's leading teacher, Randi Weingarten. I emphasize the word leading because throughout her career, that is what Randi has done. She has been a leader. Her rise to become the president of the American Federation of Teachers, of which I am a member, was due to her steadfast leadership on educational issues in New York. This is where Randi is from and where she began her teaching career, taking her expertise as a lawyer into the classroom. And yes, that is right. She was actually a lawyer who then realized the riches she could make as a teacher and went into being a classroom teacher. Maybe some of the lawyers here will be inspired tonight to do the same thing. She taught social studies at Clara Barton High School in Brooklyn, and through her superb teaching, led her students to winning a number of awards in debating constitutional issues. It's no surprise that with her background in law and education, that Randi became familiar with street law and quickly became one of street law's biggest supporters. Today, Randi is one of the leading voices in education policy, representing over 1.5 million educators when she speaks to Congress, the President, state legislatures, state governors, and business leaders. In her rise to this level of leadership, she has not forgotten her days in the classroom and the excitement of watching her students debate the nuances of the Constitution and in the process understand the important values of equality and basic human rights that make our country great. This is why she continues to be a supporter of street law. Much of the discussion in education policy these days focuses on STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math. There's no question these are important subjects that are essential to the well-being of America's economy. But what is even more essential to the well-being of our society is a citizenry that knows and understands the principles of our democracy. I am certain when Randi is in those education policy discussions with our nation's leaders, and she just shared with us today that she was at the White House, and they are so focused on STEM that she reminds them not to forget the importance of civic education and the role groups like street law play in making sure democratic principles, those that our founders came up with over 200 years ago, that they still continue to be discussed, debated, and continue to live in the hearts, minds, and souls of our next generation of citizens. In this way, Randi is America's leading street law teacher. Please join me in honoring Randi Weingarten, street law's Edward L. O'Brien Lifetime Achievement Award winner.
Oh my God, I want to take him with me everywhere. So, I'm a little nervous here. And I'm a little nervous because, I came in thinking about, okay, I'm going to say thank you. And then I heard Soraya and Andrea and Julia and Jennifer and of course, Eric, and of course, Lee, Christoph, Vita, and the amazing people who, how much money did you raise tonight?
Over $25,000.
And I want to just take a mirror and shine it on all of you. This is a pretty remarkable organization. And what you are doing is, on some levels, just a remarkable amplification of what any of us do in the classroom. And I frankly am honored for the award, but I am more than honored. I am moved by what you do every single day. And I want to find a way to say thank you in a way that you all hear it. Thank you very, very, very much. So I'm supposed to talk about civics and civic engagement. But I think that Andrea actually talked about it in a way, and Eric talked about it in a way. We have a civics crisis in this country. We have gotten to a paradigm shift in education. I was going to spend a lot of time saying, look, we've gone from test, and more test, and you haven't had enough, then there's more test. And you see it in the kids that you see, because basically schools are very much focused on English, math, and graduation rates. It's great the graduation rates in the Chicago schools that we work in are double what or for the kids that we work with, are double what the other rates are. But that's because of the engagement of this program. And there is a paradigm shift here. And we have the opportunity with this new ESSA law to build in not just math and English and STEM, which I, by the way, often call STEAM. The A is for arts. I got that from Yo-Yo Ma, by the way. But there's an opportunity because every state has to change their accountability system, or has the opportunity to change their accountability system and not be so test-based and be more based in the things that really matter to kids: building relationships, engagement, resilience, critical thinking, problem solving. What a shock. The same kind of things that are life skills that any one of the employers in this room would want an employee to have. And that's what street law did for me when I taught it. I got a class that I could teach anything to. And I'm delighted that one of my co-teachers, frankly, the guy who taught me how to teach high school, because I was scared, you know what, the first day I taught, Leo Casey. Dr. Casey, would you stand up for a second, since from Clara Barton High School, who's now the head of the Albert Shanker Institute. And I was looking all around, what am I going to do? I can get to do anything. These are seniors. They've passed their regents already. And I found street law. Someone told me about it. Someone in the hall, someone in the teacher's room. They told me about this program. And my street law book, I know I taught a while ago, and a Lifetime Achievement Award is actually really freaking me out because I still think of myself as young with a lot of fight left. But my book that I taught from, I still have on my bookshelf wherever I go, whichever job, and it is so worn with all the dog hairs, or all the, thank you, the dog ears. Dog hairs, there's probably dog hairs in there too. But what I saw with street law was what Andrea was talking about, what Soraya felt, what Eric teaches every day, what Julia and Jennifer were talking about. It was a way of engaging kids, opening them up, seeing them seeing their own potential, taking that mirror, and them seeing who they are and what they want to be and what they can be. And that's what I love about this program, and that's what I loved about teaching it every day that I got to teach it. And what I also loved was that the curriculum was so rich and robust that I could actually say to my kids, I get to choose 3 topics that I'm going to teach you, and you get to choose 3 topics that you want to be taught. And it was really always interesting to me, the 3 topics that they chose. All about living their lives and navigating their lives for their families. But I digress. I was supposed to talk about civics, not my kids. And what I want to say about civics is this. There is this paradigm shift, bipartisan support from Lamar Alexander, Patty Murray, to change the test and sanction policies to one that allowed us to teach more project-based instruction. But there is no similar paradigm shift in our politics. And I don't mean this to be partisan, but it scares me when there's a candidate for president who has normalized hate speech. It scares me when, after a justice of the Supreme Court dies, the first issue becomes political, not constitutional. It scares me when people don't understand or are engaged in civics or in civic engagement, that in caucus states there's less than 7% participation, and not much better in primary states. So I ask you, with all this potential in this room, we have a big job. The work you do is remarkable and incredible in terms of helping every child see that confidence, see that potential. But how do we do it for our democracy? How do we start engaging our democracy so that we have a generation that tends to it, not that runs away from it? How do we ensure that what we feel about civic participation, we can help others feel, particularly our next generation? That is all of our work. And that was, yes, with due respect, what I was talking to people in the White House about today. Because America needs a crash course in civics, not seat time, but in the civic engagement that would be like we see in Australia, where virtually everyone votes, where voting and fighting for voting is meaningful, where there would be a huge fight against the suppression of the vote, a huge fight against suppression of rights. So look, I'm a labor leader these days. I gotta advocate for things. I don't have to advocate in this room for economic security, but I need to advocate in this room for our democracy. We, Lee, myself, others, we are pushing, as Andrea said, to have more civic education and to find ways for civic engagement. We are using this new law to try to turn that around in schools, to try to bust open the door to enable that to happen. But we need your help, not in a partisan way, in a bipartisan way. Open the door. Help us create more civic engagement and civics in schools so that kids will take control and that the will of the people will mean the will of the people. Thank you very much.